Still asking a few questions?
Yeah, if
I'm here to stay.
Okay. So
so
often at the national, local, and county level and state level, we see so many incumbents that run for election and go unopposed. And I must say there's no empathy here, and there is much appreciation that for all five of you, Paul for running again, for the four other people running, I appreciate that. Secondly, at least for the panel of candidates concerned, I appreciate the civility among all the discussion, the inner banner, and the commentary provided to all of us to help educate who best should move on to the general election and becomes particularly our successor in the next election for mayor. My question is this: while we just don't always like to have one-issue voters, there are many in this city who are concerned, though, about one particular issue that seems to be often ignored and forgotten, and that is regarding to our landmarks situation with our commission. Whether you want to say it's for a few wealthy developers or well-connected ones who want to try to change the laws and the rules and ordinances with our landmarks per se, there is a concern about that. My question to you is this: what verbal and non-verbal cues can all of us voters take from all four of you and the mayor and the fifth? In terms of non-verbal, which is actions, things you do, things you're going to sign, things you're going to lobby for, and also for verbally, your promises, your rhetoric during the campaign and when you do get in office. And the second part of the question is, once you do get in office, who are you going to really appoint on this 6-member, particularly the Landmarks Commission, that you're looking for? Qualities, experiences, traits, resume credentials, things like that you're looking for to get on that commission. Which is
all right, let's hear some answers. We've got a lot of people here, so let's keep moving. So Bridget, jump in on that one.
Well, I think perhaps Stu might want to keep his seat. I sat on the Landmarks Commission for 2 years, so I'm familiar with it. I think it's important to have a good balance of folks. We have some specific seats that, for instance, Stu here is the historian designation on the committee. We have architects. I think you want to have somebody who looks at the balance of the situation at hand. I was always the type that I was very much about the specific property and the individual property, weighing that on the merits of what the individual proposal at hand was. There were others on the committee at the time when I served that were very big on this idea of the district as a whole. My personal philosophy is I think you should let historic districts breathe and see new development and growth while preserving the quintessential, beautiful things that are historic to our city and need to be saved. And it's a balancing act, and so that's how I would approach appointments on that committee. I don't believe all 6 are up for being or some that will continue.
Anyone else want to jump in on that question? Otherwise, we can keep moving. Christopher?
So I think that right now our city's kind of in the middle of a development boom, and we know that development booms, or all kinds of booms in fact, will eventually go bust. And so we need to start thinking about how we're going to preserve the character of our city while also fostering the kind of developments which will sustain us in the future. I think that we should be a self-sustaining city, and I think that we should be favoring the kind which create tangible products, encouraging people who are local artists and craftsmen, and we should be providing job training for them. That's kind of getting away from the question. I would accept all applications for the Landmarks Commission. I'm sure that the city has a lot of people who are very like Stu, who have been here a long time and know a lot about it, and a lot more than me. And so I would seek out those people.
Paul?
I would hope that there'd be 2 challenges that we'll address. The first challenge is distinguishing the dilemma that we have between landmark buildings and those which are supporting. We've got sharp disagreements among staff on that. We have sharp disagreements on council. We have sharp disagreements on the part of the public. I'm simply not sure exactly what is the solution. But we need someone to serve on the Landmarks Commission who can figure out that balance. The second thing I think we need to address is that we have to consider whether or not we want to take State Street and make it a historic district. I think that's something that's got to be on the agenda right now. I didn't get an opportunity to respond to the question on faith-based issues. People should understand, it's been 30, 40 years since the city had its first faith-based partnership with the Quaker-built housing on Park Street. And there's ongoing relationships been going on for decades with Lutheran Social Services and with other faith-based organizations in terms of providing services.
All right. Anyone else want to take that question, or want to take another couple questions?
I can say something real quick. Stu, that you know, Stu, I don't know a lot about the landmark thing, and it's something I really got to get up to speed with. And you know, I think that's something that's really, really unique, because everybody's bringing in all their baggage on what they do. And I think having a fresh eye and maybe using the intellectual capital of our city to bring information in. And sometimes we go too much for our own good. So I'm open to hear it. I would like to sit down and hear a lot more about it.
I would say there's a time and place to start talking about what the landmark status is in our city. And right now we're having a conversation about poverty, about the opportunity gap, and the economic issues that are happening in South Madison. So while the Landmarks Commission and the landmark status, as a member of the Plan Commission, I could talk all night. Let's right now talk about the real issues.
Yes.
Right now.
All right. Let's take one more question from each line, and then we can gather,
All right, so
wrap this.
you want to talk about real issues, let's talk about food, man. There are people who live in our poorest neighborhoods, Adelaide, Darbo, etc., where if they don't own a car and they want to get food, what their options are McDonald's, a gas station, or taking an hour-and-a-half bus ride, or taking a really expensive cab ride. What will you all do to address the food deserts in Madison?
I love that question. So my very first blog post on my blog.
Yep. All right.
My very first blog post on my blog I wrote last August was to deal with the issues of food access in Madison. Like I feel really strongly about this. I've done way too much research about pesticides, herbicides, and genetically modified food, and the effects on human health. And I think that we need to be growing our food locally. I think that the greater distance that it travels, the worse it is. And I think that we can be working to set up aquaponic greenhouses within the city. That was my other idea for what we do with some of this money that we might have access to. And I think that that's something that will create a lot of economic opportunity for people as well. Not only that, but if we want to go the route of Hubert, then we can have people learning to grow food, like reforging that connection with the land that has been lost to us over the course of the last 2 generations. I mean, really, when you see all this preservative laden food and everything, it's a Cold War era.
Right.
It's really
Food deserts. Anyone else? Well, and Bridget?
4 years ago, there was no food policy council in Madison. Now there is. Here's what we've accomplished today. First of all, it's small. Go to Brittingham Park. There was some opposition from the neighborhood. There is a beautiful, thriving community garden in Brittingham Park, which was principally designed to meet the needs of the young elders in the neighborhood.
We did that. By the people. That was by the people.
What do you mean?
Thank you.
All right, Bridget.
Is that not worth my time?
Go for it.
Secondly, we were anticipating problems at Allied Drive. The neighborhood resource teams teamed up with the folks at Allied. Last night, we brought in and got approved the resolution for $15,000 for transportation as an interim solution. But now we've got a proposal for $300,000 to invest in a community-based market at Allied Drive. We're hoping that we can acquire the Salvation Army property at Darbo, turn it into a community facility and do something we've never done before, which is to incorporate a food center with a neighborhood center. That's just the beginning. And if you give me another hour, I'll tell you about the rest of the agenda.
All right, Bridget.
Great. There's been some very good ideas touched upon here. I think one thing we really need to look at is the zoning code that is not allowing for businesses to set up. We need to look, and this is part of the work that's being done, looking at where those food deserts are, having the city step up, having the city invest to ensure, because it's not just about community gardens, especially in weather like this, right? And it's about having access to good, smart grocery consumer decisions. One of the things, Jeff Maurer with Fresh Madison Market, he tried with the cart and that didn't go very well. So we need to keep going back to the drawing board. We have to provide transportation. We're starting to put those things in place. I think what Growing Power is doing, and I was a summer associate over at Center for Resilient Cities and Badger Rock Middle School, is a really great idea of a hybrid of how you can take a community where there isn't existing commercial space and create food options there. So I think there's more that we can do. It's across like 4 or 5 different areas. It's not just one idea.
Either of you.
Grocery store local here on Park Street because they're in the south location. Work grocery store goes all the way down to Pittsburgh. Does that happen? That's all I'm saying. Come on.
All right, we'll take one last question and then I think we did one. I think we're at this line now. We just
Everyone is still sitting down here, and the people are here to ask their questions and be heard.
Please don't cut us off. This is what happens to us all the time. We are here, we have questions, we want them answered.
I'm from the community. My question goes back to the homeless and the poverty downtown. Out in Washington, the city overlooked the issue of many homeless people sleeping on the streets. I have watched over the years so many concerts and events. The city done raised so much money. So many musicians, artists, comedians, rock bands that came through, got money and left. And the big issue, what I'm saying is, it's a lot of homeless here. What are you gonna do if you're elected to help that issue? But the issue is, you give a homeless person shelter, that's not the solution. A lot of people got mental health. I heard Paul kind of touched on some of that. Mental health, substance abuse issues, alcoholism, dealing with depression. What are we gonna do to use our resources in our community to help the homeless get the proper help so they can have a mental state to even if you did give them housing, to even maintain it.
all right. Bridget.
Yeah. What's most frustrating was seeing this on a daily basis, working on the Capitol Square, and understanding how completely broken the social net is to have the resources for the needs that we need to have in this community. This also gets a little bit to Maria's question that I think she was getting at about the top of State Street. I mean, the other thing is I hate this idea of how we should just shuffle people along, right? We have to give people good options of where to go and how to spend their days. Housing is a major component. There are housing properties downtown that are underutilized or empty that I think could very well be target properties for the city to look at. Housing first is great if you have housing. We do not have housing. And like you also said, the folks who are homeless, it's not just about being homeless. I had a gentleman at the previous debate come, and it's about access to services and having folks know that those services are there. There's so much more. Go to the website, I got some ideas on there.
There's plenty of housing.
All right, there are 5 critical services that every one of us needs throughout our lives. It is transportation. It is quality health care. It is quality child care. It is housing. And it's education and job training. I want to go back to the health for a moment, because health care includes nutrition, includes food, includes mental health, and includes substance abuse. Housing first is the beginning. You have to have housing. If you try and deal with the others without permanent housing, they don't work. That's been proven time and time again. We've got a commitment over the next 5 years to build 1,000 units. With that, we are working to get supportive services in those other 4 areas. That is a solution. We've got to get away from the idea that transitional housing or shelters is the solution. That's what took us off track for over a decade, and that's why we don't have solutions today. We also have to add to everyone's housing stock. Madison 4 years ago had the lowest vacancy rate in the United States. That hurt everyone regardless of income. We've added 4,000 units. They're not affordable for everyone, but many of these new... Pardon? Yeah, I know. You know what, Bridgettville? Every one of you's gone over. I've been the one who's constantly stopped. There's one instance on this really critical issue of housing. I've decided to do what the rest of you have done all night and go a few seconds over on the most important issue that's been raised.
All right, I had Christopher and then
Yeah, thank you. So actually, I'd like to backtrack a little bit on what I said earlier about the shelter because, I mean, I don't know how I forgot this. It's on the literature that I passed it out. Like, Utah solved their homelessness problem by very simply giving people places to live. And that's what we need to do. Like, it's the cost of people living on the streets and city services, incarceration, emergency room visits is in the range of $18,000 per person per year. So we will save massive amounts of money by simply signing them with and making efforts with landlords and rental agencies to let them live somewhere. And yeah, they will need services, but there shouldn't be strings attached. Like you shouldn't have to pass through hoops in order to get access to the housing. That's right. And so and this is something that we need to you keep saying. And this is an idea that has to happen, or else we're just not going to get anywhere. And so, yeah, thank you for the question.
Just real quick, I agree with Paul on housing first. You know, I did housing first, and it takes a toll. You need something else with it. You just can't go housing first. What you need is you need a group or someone to follow the family around. You know, someone that mentor, tell them how to live. I mean, you know, a lot of the people that are homeless now probably renting for me. I'm still getting phone calls from people asking me they need apartments, they need somewhere to stay. And the housing first will work with this faith-based partnership thing. It's an additional extension that we can match these faith-based organizations with the actual tenant. And then, as a landlord, when I was a landlord, I'll be more willing to take it because I got a whole support network behind me. And it's going to help. But if you just do housing first, you're going to have the same problems I had, and then, you know, what's going to happen is the city going to come at you for code violations after you did housing first. And then what you do?
Scott?
I'm just saying one piece here. It's about quality of life. You have individuals that are sleeping in front of City Hall tonight. And my wife, who was she's still back there. And she survived with everybody else. Is a therapist with kids with autism. Works with people with mental disabilities every single day. You know, when we have conversations like this, and yes, we're very compassionate to try to find housing, but when we treat people with disrespect, when we try to boot them out in front of City Hall, when we try to send them on buses outside of the city, when we try to do everything we can to make life difficult for an individual who is homeless and dealing with situations that's many times beyond their control, that doesn't show compassion. So I think that we need to really start talking also about quality of life for individuals, regardless of their socioeconomic class in this community. And I see this at City Hall all the time.
All right.
All power to the people.
All power to the people!
My name is Eric Stephen, I'm Church the 2nd. I too am part of the circle of leaders called Uncut and Black. And we've recently taken to the streets in a demonstration of power. I'm going to pick on you, Molly. An example of power and privilege is what we just saw here. Well-meaning people who are in seats have agendas that they hope will benefit the people that they are accountable to. But it turns out that those well-meaning people with great ideas are wrong quite often. We've heard a lot of good ideas here, and my issue is that we are ladled with well-meaning people with good ideas, and those good ideas either fail in the essence of those ideas or they fail opportunity to go to the chief of police's first community forum. And one of the major concerns is racial disparities, and I was one of maybe 3 black people in the room, maybe 50. There's an issue with expertise. I've heard each of you speak on how you will incorporate the people in your decision-making process. And it sounds as if you separate yourself, some of you are separating yourself from the people. And I don't even think this is all that far-fetched. I mean, many of you don't live the lifestyle of those that are affected by the policies you're attending to enact. So there's an issue, a big issue of expertise and of power. If you're upset at the disparities that you see and you're uncomfortable, imagine how we feel, having generational anger and trauma, being upset and hurt for over 400 years. And even now, having to elect leaders, quote unquote, that lack the expertise to do the job that's needed to be done. So, I'm reminded of a quote by Kwame Ture, and I'm leading to my question. Anticipation is wrong, but Kwame Ture said, if a white man wants to lynch me, that's his problem.
His problem.
If he has the power to do
My
so,
God, it's my problem. Come on now. Come on now.
racism is not an issue of attitude, it's an issue of power. So, I would like for each of you to speak at length. This is important, this is very important. How you are going to empower the community, or better yet, be held accountable to the community. What that's going to look like. I've heard all of you say, my hands are tied. That's not an issue that the city handles. That's something for another office. This is our city, and this is my house. The mayor said, we tried to do it, but the county failed. You failed. This is your responsibility. And when you say sorry, you're saying sorry to the wrong people in this warm building. You should be saying sorry to the countless people that are outside shivering cold right now because you failed. My hands are not tied. I am free in a matter of speaking. Because I'm part of a circle that has taken power, taken to the streets, and will continue to do so. But I'd like to get some rest sometimes. So how are you going to be held accountable to our people? All power to the people.
All power to the people.
All right, let's hear responses, and we'll take the folks that are left in line, and we're going to be gracious to our hosts, so we'll take everyone left in line, and 2 questions at a time.
Let the teenager go.
We can take a bunch of questions and then get answers. Yeah. All right, let's hear some questions, and we'll get a joint.
I really want to answer that question.
All right, let's be quick. It's good training for common council. All of it.
I need at least as much time to answer the question as it took to ask it. First, in terms of accountability, let me tell you something. It's one thing to describe the problem. It's another thing to identify the root causes of the problem. But it is even more difficult to implement systems of solutions to solve the problem. I come before you having set up a system that lowered black infant mortality over 7 years to where it was below white infant mortality. I come before you with a system that empowered teenagers, mostly African American, from LaFollette High School, to get $300,000 out of the city budget for that transit system. I come before you with success since I returned to office, similar to what I did before in regards to lowering unemployment, closing the disparity in income, lowering the number of children in Madison schools.
You're not answering the question. How are you going
You
to
asked
get
for accountability. I'm giving you my record of accountability. Now, in terms of empowerment, you look at the systems we set up. They are predicated not on government leading and running, but they are predicated on the people taking control of their neighborhoods and their lives. If you look at our greatest successes, if you look at the successes at Bear Court, if you look at the successes that we've had on the west side,
Let's get some other responses so we can.
it has been successes where our staff, the city people, follow the neighbors who are empowered.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in on that question? All right.
One of the things I've noticed, all right, so I had a gentleman for the Edgewater Hotel who was very against the Edgewater. And he wanted what he wanted. And I had a lot of other audiences of people who wanted lots of things. When you're mayor, you have to bring everybody to the table. You have to hear from everyone. You have to see how can you adjust this. And nobody gets exactly what they want. That's how this works. I envy you when you say you're free. I mean, part of the responsibility of this job is you don't get to be free to do exactly everything you always want. You have to work with lots of people, and you have to balance all the interests. One thing that I've noticed, though, is that of 20 city council members, and not counting the student district, I was the only renter. But if you look at the 2010 census, 54% of the city's households are rental households. You look at the city council, the lack of diversity in the city council. So part of it also is you guys have to step up and run. You guys have to come down to City Hall. You have to serve, and if the mayor hasn't been sitting you on committees that you're applying for, then you need to raise some help, because that's how we have to do this. And the sad reality is that I watched City Hall shut down for 6 weeks, over $230,000, regarding whether or not we should put bike lights on the path. And there was a lot of conversation about the migratory pattern of hours. And for a big chunk of people, that was what they thought City Hall should be shut down for. So we have to balance a lot of needs in a lot of communities. And when you're in this position, you're right. It's not exactly an enviable position.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We should always choose the side of freedom.
Let me start out by saying I've helped people run for city council, and they were elected. I helped people run for county board. Jill Stubbs, she was elected. Okay. I helped Wayne Strong run for school board. Okay. Did all my time, trying to empower our community. I'm running for office right now so we can have a better way. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna continue doing what I've been doing. Working in our community, trying to make things better. And listen, what we gotta have is the kind of dialogue that we can sit down and talk about, that we can listen to. That we can have good conversation that's gonna come to meaningful results. And it can happen.
Do you feel empowered in the city?
No.
Do you feel like your voice is being listened to, your question being answered in front of?
My question has not been answered so far.
It's about accountability. And you're absolutely right. It's about seeing the change that you're talking about. It's making sure that you have a relationship with your government and you feel, because deep down inside you know your government is out here to actually work for you. It's about putting up good data so not only you see the numbers on the screen to say that we're making progress, but it also means that you're seeing the change around you. Because you know if you would ever message me, chat on Facebook, you know I'd respond to you. And you know that's how I treat you just like everybody else. That's what I bring to the table. And if you ever felt like I wasn't holding up to your standard, I would be elected. I won't be reelected. But it's about accountability, and you're absolutely right, and that's what this election is about.
I have a brief announcement. There's a Toyota Sequoia that is parking in some folks that want to leave. So if that's your vehicle, could you please? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I guess I'll repeat that question. The question is now an answer.
No, not at all.
I didn't think so. So I have, I know what it's like to live on very little. I've been making about $9,000 a year for the last 3 years, working in retail. And like I have felt the squeeze. And this is, it's not very real for people who own their own companies or who have occupied positions of power before. So somebody asked me the other day what it is that I love to do, and the first thing that came to mind was I love to read. I like to learn, and so this is the way that I would empower people, the way that I would set up systems would be in a dynamic way, in a way that, I mean, it has been said, yes, bring in outside input. I would like to see a greater financial self-determination for neighborhoods by empowering neighborhood committees, by vote financially and giving them actual real political power. Like there's a discussion over the last few weeks about there is a building that was being proposed and the neighborhood committee had said we don't want this building proposed. The council overrode that. And they weren't listened to. And I think participatory budgeting is another way. We can allow neighborhood committees to the power to set their own budgets and give them a chunk of the budget. And I would be very happy to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Brownkin. My question is a little multifaceted. It's really laying on education. I know Scott, you mentioned this as far as the first health days are very important. Childcare, I mean, this comes from somebody that doesn't have kids, but childcare is ridiculously expensive. And then we want to look at even beyond, especially early child development, so much of education is reliant upon things that happen outside the home. And the lack of education during the summer. When we look at our unrepresented communities, our Black communities here in Madison, they don't have access to the same type of camps or learning opportunities that a lot of their more well-off, like peers would go to. I know there's a lot of stuff that Boys and Girls Club does, and what the PEOP program we do, and other communities and base solutions. But at the same time, we only hit a small population of our minorities here in Madison. So what are you guys looking to do to address really the lack of child care, affordable child care for families of need, and making sure that students in elementary, middle, and high school bridge their summer and actually take something away instead of continually falling behind each and every summer that they are out of school.
Who wants to jump in?
I'll start first. You know, this is Scott's day. Child care is good. You know, we do need good child care, and that's really important. But man, it's deeper than child care. It's a lot deeper. You know, we got single parents that are struggling just to handle their sons that are 15 years old, 14. Some of them are scared of them. The kids are getting big, and they're doing what they want to do, and they're actually standing up to their moms, calling their names, and doing all kinds of things. You know? And it stems from maybe a lot more than child care.
I don't know. When I was 15, 16, I stood up to my parents quite a lot. And I called there's times my dad and I was pretty close. And, you know, I'm sure you're like, I don't know my father.
I mean, I like child care, and I think it's good. But, you know, I think maybe the most important thing is trying to keep the kids as close to the mom when they're young as they can. What we need to figure out a way how to keep the family together so the mom can stay home with the child. We got to figure out a way how we can help that single parent. Or the dad stay home with the child.
And this is regardless of marriage. Marriage does not necessarily be a strong family. Don't you like a rich white family that do not have strong families. Strong family does not have to be married. It does not have to mean the mom stays home. It doesn't have to mean the dad is one working providing. Strong families is different than that. It's more than that.
Do you want to hear from some other candidates on this?
Yes. Sorry.
That's all right, Matt.
Anybody?
I'm sure there's something never disagree with his parents at any point. I would be one. Actually, I should make a comment. And what it goes back to is making sure that everyone is on equal footing. When you start school, those first 1,000 days of life are critical. We've looked at the best pathways forward, and I've looked at models in Virginia Beach, which made sure that what they saw was the same person who's the best person to nurture someone isn't necessarily the best person to start a business as a child care. It's about putting together seed funding to make sure that we can get new child care facilities open in the city of Madison. It's about making sure that we have affordable vouchers to make sure that everybody's on the equal path moving forward. It's about working with our community partners and the nonprofit community to make sure that they're supporting it. Because the reality that I know is right now there's wait lists.
Thank you.
That there's 18 months, 20 months to get on.
Thank you.
That is really frustrating because we don't have the money. We don't have the money.
Yes, we do.
It's not that we can't do it because we don't want to do it. It's we can't do it because there's so much that we could do. And looking at our library program, if you want money to be taken out from jail, then you need to go talk with the people who control the purse strings to that money. I cannot in good faith sit here and promise you things that I cannot deliver on.
My hands aren't tied, empower me.
I think that there's a lot we could be doing. The Madison out of school time, you look at the website, it hasn't been updated since August. I went on to go read up and look at it. You look at places like St. Paul, Minnesota, and what they have done, and I had a friend who was on the city council there, there's so much more that we can and should be doing with the school district to partner that we're not doing. You look at how MSCR is all within the realm of the school district, right? But they're all city facilities. There's so much more in cost savings that we can gain if we actually partner with the school district on a lot of these fronts, and if we partner with the county, especially with social services. And that especially extends to summertime. And I saw a number of those students at Badger Rock Middle School this summer. Thank you.
I'm going to have to say the open suggestions on this question. I don't have I don't have a map in my head of where I would go. But I think it would start with the last bit that Richard just said, made a lot of sense to me. Working with the school district, working with the county, seeking available funds where they can be got. So I don't have a direct answer. I'm happy with that.
All right, thanks.
I'm not happy with it. I'll grudgingly admit that.
I'm kind of surprised that nobody's addressed what's already going on in Madison and Dane County. Through the auspices of United Way and in partnership with private sector, with nonprofits in the city, there's the Born Learning Mobilization Plan. Everybody should be familiar with that. And that plan is designed for early childhood development and issues exactly what they do need more money, and they've made some very significant strides in the last 12 months. But through the Born Learning Mobilization Plan, there's effort underway. I only have 20 seconds. Anyway, learn about that. In terms of St. Paul, Bridget, they're 5 years ahead of us. I don't know what was going on in 2008, 2009, 2010, when the rest of the country was focused on out-of-school time. But we got the city going 2 years ago, and we are now underway to develop a really meaningful program that is going to add to the educational benefits of all of our kids, as I said earlier, after school, weekends, injury location.
Anyone else read those questions?
My question is, what are you going to do about racial disparities in these schools when it comes to teachers and students, and teachers making unconscious decisions that affect students of color, and also how we're going to keep police on the chance?
Come on now. That's my
They got money for police in schools.
I started hearing about a lot of the feedback that parents are having and starting to think about what can we do with the Department of Civil Rights. I think that there's absolutely a place there that we should and can have a liaison to the schools. One of the things, and I just found this out today because I was trying to do my research and work for this debate. In 2012, the school district sued the city, or was in the process of, and there were pending court cases, and the city signed documents, it was May of 2012, to sort of agreed that the city did not have jurisdiction over the school district and the education environments. That was amazing to learn, and I'm furious at it, and I just found this out. I don't remember anything ever coming before the city council. I tried to pull the committee meetings to look at it. It was kept very internal, and now the city's hands are tied to be able to say, we can go in and look at civil rights issues in the schools.
Bridget, come on. The city attorney went under state statute and ruled that we couldn't do it. So don't make it sound like the city voluntarily surrendered jurisdiction on a civil rights matter. That was the city attorney's opinion under state statute. Then you go fire the city attorney, okay?
Anyone else, or should we take the next question?
One quick comment. I don't believe that we said no place in schools. That's all I have to say.
I just want to say it was a great question. It's stuff like that. We have more kids that are engaged in what's going on in the community. What I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to the kids.
Next question.
I'm not sure if it'll come out as a question, but it is a statement. We're sitting here speaking about homeless, prisons. Let's look at homeless in prison, and let's look outside our doors and realize that it starts in the schools. I know for a fact that kids are graduating with D averages, and they get the D averages because they're pushed to play the sports in the schools. Mind you, that they're making money for the schools when they're playing the sports. So they're sliding by to play the sports for coaches, the schools to make the money that they have to make. And then, when they get the scholarships to go to school with the athletic, when they get to go to school with the athletic scholarships, majority of the kids I have seen last year are back. And where are they? They're on the streets because they didn't have the education that they were supposed to have, that they have a right to have, to go into the schools, and they didn't have a good placement in the college system. They over here at MATC, pounding the wall, the police are outside ready to arrest them, and they have tears in their eyes. Big 300-pound black African-American young men at the time that cannot pass the compass test to get into an MATC career that they want to have. So then they have to go and take another English class that they're supposed to take in high school, a math class they're supposed to take. Algebra, for real, you're a senior and you're needing to take algebra at MATC. So that's just to tell you what is going on in the schools. And I know you're saying you can't do anything about it, but somebody got to jump up and do something about it. Because I have a senior this year, and I've been fighting since he was in the 5th grade. And everyone knows me. My name is Shakia Turner. I have too many kids up in the school system that I will not allow them to fail. And I don't see why you guys can't help and show us the way of what we need to do. Because all this control stuff that they have in Madison Metropolitan School District, I said it on plenty of them meetings, but I wasn't invited to certain meetings where a parent can voice their opinion. They have certain parents in those meetings that they can pick to give their decisions out. And since, let me jump back to where I'm at. And then I heard about the plans that they have for the schools. I've sat in those meetings, and they have this new, I'm gonna call it Cheatham, documents where parents are supposed to be involved. Kids are accountable for themselves. They have all these things that are supposed to be in line with your student. But the teachers are not, they have no high expectations for our children. No one is accountable for what they're doing in the classroom. And our kids are getting put out of the class, sitting in the hall, in detention. I thought detention was gone a long time ago when I graduated. And mind you, if I'm standing here 38 years old and graduated from Madison Metropolitan School District with a D GPA. So they go to show you what is going on. I don't know what you guys are going to do. I came from Mississippi with a different cultural dialect, but the biggest piece is not only my accent, it was how I looked. It was my appearance. Your teachers are intimidated by our kids, and that shouldn't happen. They need the training. You're constantly saying all these things that you see in other states of what's working. Those teachers are trained, and they know, and they have the wherewithal to work with any child of any different race. And I just feel like you guys need to pull together, or whoever becomes mayor, Paul. I respect you, but I don't know what's going on, and maybe I'm looking at things to come from you that cannot come from you. And I wish you can explain that you have no power to go and sit in the board meeting and tell them anything. They're paying top dollars for people to come in and tell them to change the code of conduct because it affects the African American kids. They're still disrespecting our children. They're still belittling them, and they still have no high expectations for them. You can have a child with AIDS, and they'll tell that child, oh, the community college is good for you, okay? So I just want you guys to understand that in this community here, and maybe some of it I know about the South Side and what's going on in these schools, is there is no high expectation for our kids, and there is racism in the school. And that's what we need to really point out, that they're very racist towards our kids, they're intimidated by them, and what do you expect us to do if we're sending them to school? Parental involvement, please ask them the question of what parental involvement is for them. Because I have been in schools, and I am not as loud as I am up here right now, but I have been in those schools, I have volunteered, I have sat in the library, I have copied their papers. And for them to tell me that the teachers are intimidated and they don't want to have a student-parent conference with me as my child's advocate, something is going wrong, and they're setting our kids up for failure, and it needs to stop. And you're going to continue to have homeless out here, and you're going to allow the school district to send our children to prison. But mine is not going, and none of the others are going to go if I can stand in front of the jail, and y'all can knock me down and lock me up.
Thank you. Power counts for something, and presence counts for something. But I have been labeled an activist, and I think that it is an activist's duty to go and to be heard and to be present, and exactly what you're doing right now. And this is how changes do get made. And as mayor, that is what I will do. I will, even if you say that you can't influence the decision that's being made because it's not within your jurisdiction, it's not your given power, that doesn't matter, because we can still be there and we can still speak out, and we can contact the media, we can do so many things, and so many things which some people think are too politically damaging, which are too risky, and I think they will make you labeled in like this way or another way. But I'm not afraid of that, and I won't be afraid of that.
Thank you.
Real quick, for the past 3 years, I get up at 5:30 in the morning, catch a 6 o'clock bus, go to East High School, and run the weight room for the football team. We require that they do a Tuesday report, and we're real hard on them. I know East High School, we make sure that they turn in the Tuesday report, they went to all the classes and they did all the things that they need to do. But what I'm saying is, I agree with you that we need to have a presence in the school, we need to be there. But when we go to the schools, and we have a presence in schools, we gotta be there helping. We gotta encourage and help. And that's what I do every time I go there. We gotta make a presence. We definitely gotta be there, because I'm the only African American coach that was at East High School. And we have 2 kids that just got scholarships, and they are going to college. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to follow them around. I'm going to go to their games. I'm going to do what I can to make sure that they succeed.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's take our last two questions.
I'm in the school, and I was emailed by one of the teachers that was not in my child's class to tell the other teacher that I shouldn't be in the school because it intimidates other children in the school that parents cannot be there. So.
All right, let's hear from our last two questions.
My question is, first is targeted to Paul, but anybody can answer. But you spoke earlier about our young people and where they're being arrested. You said that they're arrested in the malls, at the transfer points, and at schools. And so what I want to know is, if that's the case, and that's where the most arrests are happening, in Madison, where people are most arrested, then why is there a higher concentration of police on the south side?
Yes.
Why is there a higher concentration of police in low-income black neighborhoods? And what are you going to do to transfer some of those police, and so that low-income black communities are policed in the same way that white communities are?
Equity in policing.
Equity in policing is providing safety to the people of the neighborhoods of the city. Actually, the greatest police presence in the city is downtown. It's on State Street and around the campus. That's where the greatest police presence is.
So are you saying there's not a lot of police on the south side? Is that what you're saying?
I'm telling you that the districts are assigned on a geographic.
So what are you going to do to address the over-policing on the south side, in low-income black neighborhoods? What are you going to do to address that?
Can I finish?
Yes, if you answer my question. Don't answer all my questions. I'm not going to question.
Your assumption is incorrect. Your assumption is incorrect.
That low-income black neighborhoods are over-policed?
That is correct.
Sometimes there are more police than people in the park. There are more and more police, there's become more police than people. There are less and less people coming because they say there's too many police at the event. We can't even enjoy a historical event. An event is supposed to be celebrate freedom because we're being over-policed. Talk to me about that. What are you going to do about that? And, feel free to the rest of our answer.
I think what we're getting at is the heart of community policing, and my guess is we've got a fundamental disagreement about the role of the police in a community.
Let the community decide.
That's what we're doing right here. That's what you get to do February 17th. That's why we have all the candidates here answering your questions. We have one last question, then we're going to call it a night.
All right, Paul, you've mentioned many times your employment initiative programs. I run one of your employment initiative programs. The unions have not changed. The contractors have not changed. The employers have not changed. I am on a daily basis trying to educate individuals from my community to get jobs in industries that are not changing. In Seattle, Washington, their city ordinance, they demanded that if contractors, that employers, if they not obtain and retain people of color and women, that they do not get contracts, that do not get city funding, that they cannot exist in their city if they are not doing for their city. So my question, do not cut me off, Paul. My question is, as someone who is running for mayor, what do you plan to do to hold these industries accountable for the money that you are giving them? To employ the people that do have the skills, that have the knowledge, that have the will to work and want to work in this city. Because me training people in a 6-week schedule and telling them that you can get a job, but them being discriminated against on that job, them being hazed on those jobs, it's not going to keep them there. It's not empowering them. So what do you plan to do to hold the people that you give billions of dollars to?
What program are you specifically referring to that you were?
It doesn't matter, Paul. Just know I'm running one. It doesn't matter.
If you tell me what program.
I just said it does not matter. It is all of them.
Then you know about
It is all
but
of
you're
them.
working on one of our programs,
I run it.
Come on now.
so you know about the disparity study and what's going on there.
Yes.
You know about that?
Yes.
Pass the ordinance.
It is that simple. I just gave you the answer. Seattle, Washington has done it. You all have brought them in here. many
How did
times.
Seattle do it?
Time and
How
time
did Seattle and Portland
They have
do it?
changed their ordinance.
How did Seattle and Portland do it?
Tell me why you mad, son.
How did Seattle and Portland do
You
it?
and
How
the
Seattle?
power. So why aren't you?
Are you going to let me finish?
You keep asking me a question.
All right, I'm going to answer the question how Seattle and Portland did it. They did it
You
with
can't answer a question with a question.
We're here to hear from the candidates. Let's let them speak.
I made a decision when I embarked to deal with issues of social justice, to deal with reality, to deal with where I could make a difference. Now, we've already discussed some of the changes and some of the areas where we've had success. What Seattle and Portland did was they did a disparity study. Because under the law and because of the decisions of the Supreme Court, principally appointed by Ronald Reagan and the first Bush, the affirmative action and the contract compliance programs that we had in place were ruled unconstitutional. But it was determined that if you did a disparity study and you could prove that there was not proportional awarding of these contracts, you could then do what Seattle and Portland did. A year and a half ago, a group came together, led by 100 black men and the Latino Chamber of Commerce. We've been meeting regularly, actually it was closer to 2 years ago. We found a way of raising $500,000, which is what it costs to do a disparity study. We hired a firm. They have been working now, and they should complete their work sometime in the next 3 or 4 months. Depending on the finding of that disparity study, we will then have the legal tools to adopt the ordinances so we could accomplish what these other cities have done. That's what we did when I went to work for you in 2011. That's why we should be thankful for the work of 100 black men in the Latino Chamber of Commerce. That's where the work was getting done on a regular basis, without reporters, without television cameras, and that's how we're going to answer your question. It's being done right now.
I'm telling you right now, I'm on the ground every single day, and you don't see that. I'm asking you to address what I face every single day.
It's now 9 o'clock. We've been here for an extra hour in this facility that graciously gave us the time and space to have this conversation.
Thank you, Pastor G.
This doesn't have to end here. This doesn't have to end the election for primaries on the 17th. Then there will be a general election. There's also another forum on the north side. And so there are plenty of opportunities. This isn't the only one. Thank you.
Regarding police issues, in case you don't know, quickly this week, Chief Cobell is doing like a lot of chiefs don't do. He's having nightly meetings regarding specifically policing issues. So while we don't want to accuse us the mayor of the candidates in this issue, let's go to those meetings. Cobell is having nightly